Hey everybody here, Logan here with Kyle here on the String Bros, what's called the String Bros Sports Talk Show. We're just calling it String Bros Sports Talk. It's a lot easier. We're going to kick off tonight talking about the NCAA Tournament. But before we do that, this show is sponsored by Arizona Arnold Palmer's. They're great.
It's not. It's not sponsored. We have no sponsorships.
Also, we have some guy that keeps disliking our videos. Probably some 40-year-old out there with teenage Star Wars shoes or something. Whatever. Anyway, on to the NCAA Tournament. And it's kind of a weird year. Weird things happened on the bubble. They had Michigan State get in. That was really debatable. Syracuse got in, which was like, what? Just some weird things. It was a weird conference tournament weekend as well, as we saw, Virginia go out with COVID, a lot of other teams out with COVID. We had kind of weird conference championships in general. What was it?
Georgia Tech winning the ACC
Georgia Tech
tournament.
winning the ACC. It was weird because, you usually play a lot of games in the conference tournaments, but they ran into the issue where, a lot of these teams were rested. Like Carolina had to play 2 straight games and then play Florida State, who was rested and barely lost to them. Georgia Tech got the rest up and run right through. You wonder if everybody's healthy, if this would have ended up this way. You don't know. But anyway, on to the NCAA Tournament coming up. And we're just going to kind of go through each region here. And we'll start out west here. Top-seeded Gonzaga. As the 2 seed, you got Iowa. 3 seed Kansas. 4 seed Virginia. What do you got happening in the West? Who's your sleepers? Who's your your upsets? The teams that aren't going to get beat. And overall, who's going to win this thing in the West?
So one of my upset picks is in the round of 32. I actually have Oklahoma beating Gonzaga. I do have Virginia coming out of the West as as winning the West. I really don't have any upsets other than, really just Oklahoma beating Gonzaga is my biggest upset.
For me in the West, first round upsets, I have either Wichita State or Drake beating USC.
I actually did have that one as well. I missed it.
You changed it?
No. I had it.
Oh.
I looked over it.
Oh, VCU, I got beaten Oregon.
I did not take that one. I thought about that.
In the second round, I got it pretty chalky. I've got Gonzaga winning, Virginia winning, Kansas winning, Iowa winning, which gets us to your round of the Sweet 16. And in the Sweet 16, I have Virginia upsetting Gonzaga, and I got Kansas beating Iowa.
So we've got the same teams in the Elite Eight.
And in the Elite Eight, I'm going Kansas over Virginia.
So the only difference between our Elite Eight is I have Virginia over Kansas.
And you got them in your Final Four. Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's bounce down to, I guess, next in the ESPN bracket, I guess it goes to the Michigan side, which would be the East. And for me, in the first round, I got the winner of Michigan State and UCLA beating Texas.
I also have that one. Did you say beating Texas?
Yeah, and after their play.
I don't have them winning the 32.
Do I have anything else surprising here? Wait, this is screwed up. Oh, that's because I'm looking at the round of 32. Yeah. Oh, God, that's why. Georgetown beating Colorado. Georgetown is hot right now. And then I got Michigan State and UCLA beating BYU is what I meant.
Yeah, and then
I actually do have them beating Texas in the next round. That's it there. In the round of 32, I've got Michigan beating LSU, Florida State beating Georgetown, Michigan State, UCLA beating Texas, Alabama beating UConn. And then we get to the Sweet 16. And in my Sweet 16, I've got Michigan beating Florida State and Alabama beating Michigan State, UCLA. And getting to the Elite Eight, I've got Michigan beating Alabama to get to the Final Four.
So in my round one, my upsets are Georgetown over Colorado. And then I also have Michigan State or UCLA. I think both of them get by BYU. And then my round of 32, I have Georgetown upsetting Florida State, Michigan beating LSU. I have Texas beating MSU or UCLA. I have Alabama winning. And then in my Sweet 16, I have Michigan beating Georgetown, and I have Alabama beating Texas. And then my Elite Eight, I have Michigan beating Alabama.
Okay, so we're pretty close. You got Virginia in the first one. I got Michigan. We both got Michigan in the Final Four. Okay, now we jump over to the South region. And for my South region, upsets, I got Virginia Tech over Florida. I don't know how big of an upset you call that. That's about it in that region. I got chalk the rest of the way. You got anything? I wanted to go Winthrop over Villanova, but couldn't do it.
I also have Virginia Tech over Florida as my only upset in the first round. I do think that Colgate could get a win over Arkansas as a big upset. I have read a lot about Colgate, and I think they have a good chance. After that, I have Baylor beating Wisconsin, Purdue beating Villanova, Arkansas beating Texas Tech. So, yeah, pretty much higher seeds winning. But then in the Sweet 16, I actually have Purdue beating Baylor, and then Arkansas beating Ohio State, and Purdue beating Arkansas in the Elite Eight. So I have Purdue going to the Final Four.
I've got North Carolina being a team to beat Baylor. Then I got Villanova beating Purdue, Arkansas beating Texas Tech, Ohio State beating Virginia Tech. And then in my Sweet 16, I've got North Carolina beating Villanova in a national title game rematch. Ohio State beating North Carolina. North Carolina, weird to say, Cinderella North Carolina. They go down to Ohio State. And I've got right now Kansas, Michigan, and Ohio State in the Final Four. Who will I take in the end? And as we get down to the bottom part, the Midwest, Whoops. Oh, God.
Hey, buddy.
Anyway, in the Midwest, we've got number 1 seed Illinois. I really, really like this Illinois team. And I think they're going to run this bracket. Upsets... not many. I got Georgia Tech over Loyola Chicago. That's not an upset. I went pretty chalk here. Second round, Illinois, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Houston. I'm still keeping the chalk there. Into the Sweet 16, Illinois, Oklahoma State. I got West Virginia advancing to the Elite Eight with a win over Houston. And I've got Illinois beating West Virginia with your Final Four being, well, 3 Big Ten teams, 1 Big 12. As it's Michigan versus Kansas and Ohio State versus Illinois.
This is actually probably my most creative part of the bracket. So I have Illinois winning. Obviously, I have Georgia Tech beating Loyola Chicago. I have Tennessee beating Oregon State. Oklahoma State winning. I have Syracuse beating San Diego State. I have Clemson beating Rutgers, Houston winning. But then it gets a little interesting going in around a 32. I'm rolling hot with Georgia Tech right here, and I think they're going to beat Illinois. I know that's super edgy to say.
They're going to go on their Kemba Walker UConn run.
And then I have Tennessee upsetting Oklahoma. Upset. It's a 5/4. And then I have West Virginia winning and Clemson beating Houston. And then after that, I actually have Georgia Tech beating Tennessee, going to the Sweet 16 against West Virginia, or the Elite Eight against West Virginia. So in the Elite Eight, I have Georgia Tech versus West Virginia, and West Virginia wins, goes to the Final Four. So my Final Four consists of Virginia versus Michigan and Purdue versus West Virginia.
All right, Final Four.
I have Michigan beating Virginia, and then I have West Virginia beating Purdue.
I've got Michigan beating Kansas, Illinois beating Ohio State. National championship.
I have Michigan winning.
I have Michigan beating Illinois. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think Illinois is going to win the national championship. But I told you 1 month ago, lay the bets down on Michigan. I got to stick to my guns. I don't think it's going to happen because Livers is out. But Michigan will win the national title in my bracket. I'm still sticking with it. Illinois is actually going to win it. But I'm taking Michigan in my bracket because I got to stick to these guns. I picked them. I've got to stay with them. I said put your house on it. Michigan's going to win the national title.
Technically, if they go deep enough, Livers could come back, right?
I think.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they said if they make it to like the Elite Eight or the Final Four, he could come back possibly at that point. So there's a chance.
Michigan wins the Natty, even though I think Illinois wins the Natty. One of those two teams are going to be your national champion.
All right.
And next, where did the NFL free agency thing go?
You said don't have it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
sorry, guys. NFL free agency.
I thought he said take it down. All right.
I think I was talking about something else. So far, it's been a lot of re-signing.
Mild.
The big story so far has to be New England going after a load of guys. Hunter Henry, Matthew Judon, Jonnu Smith. They are loading up Cam Newton to have some weapons.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's still Cam Newton.
You can say what you want about Cam, but he had nobody to throw to last year. He's not great, but he didn't have help either.
I will say the 1 year he did win the MVP and they took him to a Super Bowl, they're in Carolina, obviously. Their best wide receiver was Ted Ginn Jr. So he can do stuff without good receiving core. But I've also seen him not do well with a good receiving core as well. So
I mean, he's not great, but, people dissed him last year, and he did not play well. But to his defense, he didn't have help. He did not. When he had a healthy receiving core at the beginning of the year with Julian Edelman and all those guys, he was on fire for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season. People forget that. I just think the bashing is a little unnecessary. And it could just because we live in North Carolina. I don't think he's great, but I think it's a little unnecessary, some of the bashing he gets. Just saying. Notable free agents left. Trent Williams and Kenny Golladay are the big names. Pretty much every wide receiver is still available, and I feel like the market is waiting on who's going to overpay one of these guys first. And actually, I am wrong. Corey Davis was the big name that went out of the wide receivers yesterday as he was signed by the Jets. And it actually was a pretty nice contract. They didn't actually overpay him. I thought they got a pretty good deal, the Jets did, in Corey Davis. I really like Corey Davis. William Jackson's still out there, one of the best defensive backs in the league. Melvin Ingram, one of the best pass rushers in the league. Anthony Harris, a great safety. Juju, he's been kind of linked with some big cities. Miami. Hassan Reddick, good pass rusher. Man, I didn't realize how many players the Steelers let go. I was kind of surprised by that. I did not know they let go of Bud Dupree until yesterday. I didn't know they let go of Mike Hilton until he was signed today.
And then Villanueva.
Yeah, I mean, they lost a lot of players. Patrick Peterson's still there.
Will Fuller?
He's only 30. Will Fuller, yeah. I chose him to go to Green Bay. Xavier Rhodes, Jadeveon Clowney.
Big Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins is only 27 years old.
Yeah, he feels like he's been decrepit in the NFL forever.
Wow. He's younger than Kenny Golladay. Which is weird. Because he came into the league before Kenny Golladay. But I guess Kenny Golladay came in as a 4-year starter. A 4-year.
Neal.
Keanu Neal is one of the most underrated guys in this class. He's being linked to Detroit, Carolina. I think I saw the Jets. A few other teams.
If Chris Carson can stay healthy, he's a really good signing for somebody in need of a running back.
Yeah.
And you could probably get a deal on him because of his injury proneness.
T.Y. Hilton. Mike Hilton signed with somebody. I think it was the Bengals or the Browns. James White. He has been linked to Tampa Bay, maybe hooking back up with Tom Brady. Bashawn Breeland, not a bad defensive back. Will Tampa have the cap to sign Ndamukong Suh and a few of these other guys? I guess they could take a veteran's discount. I mean, Suh's got all the money now. I mean, he's probably just playing for rings. James Conner there, only 25 years old. Anal Zone. Rick Wagner, former Lions offensive tackle.
Leonard Fournette was a monster last year.
I think he's going to end up back in New York, Tampa Bay. I mean, who's been your winner of free agency so far? Probably mine is New England.
Yeah, you'd have to say New England. They've made the biggest moves.
And Kansas City, I totally overlooked it. Kansas City signed Joe Thuney yesterday. Is a very big signing, especially after that Super Bowl collapse by their offensive line. Now, granted, they were out and injured, but he's definitely big help if they play Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. Hopefully they can avoid the COVID. And with that, we'll go on to NASCAR. They were in Phoenix, one of my favorite racetracks last weekend, in a very exciting race. Martin Truex snuck out late to win the race. I don't think any of us had him as our pick. I think I had Kyle Larson repeating back-to-back weeks, and you had...
I couldn't even tell you who I had. Harvick, maybe?
I think so.
Maybe.
I think so. Because we had that talk last week where I said Kevin Harvick with Richard Childress Racing when he's actually with Stuart Haas. He hadn't been with Richard Childress Racing in like a decade. So I had a mental breakdown last week. Some surprising... Stenhouse qualified 11th and stayed consistent at 12th.
I actually think this is the most normal ending to a race we've seen in a while.
Yeah, just about the whole top 15 is your top 15 guys.
Well, you ended up having McDowell run.
Well, I mean, your usual top 15 guys.
Well, I mean, he's been running good all year.
These are the names that are going to be deep in the playoffs when they get to the playoff race. You're going to have Truex, you're going to have Hamlin, you're going to have Logano, you're going to have Keselowski, you're going to have Elliott, you're going to have Harvick, you're going to have Larson, you're going to have Blaney. I'm running out of breath.
Almirola actually ran fairly well. He started at 32.
Now, he had a lot of bad luck early in the year with, people running into him, the car not working well. I think Stuart Haas Racing is starting to get it together with Harvick, Almirola. Briscoe, I think, did a little bit better. Did he?
Briscoe ended up fading. Yeah,
he was up there earlier in the race.
He ran well until the end.
And I know you guys message me like every Sunday for NASCAR tips, and I said Kurt Busch, and Kurt Busch was the biggest disappointment of the race. Probably he was in 12th. I was confident he was going to finish in the top 6, and he kind of just had an average car, just sat there right in 15th.
Kyle Busch was a big letdown.
Kyle Busch has just not had it, man.
Yeah, I took Kyle Busch, and that was.
And he actually, if he wouldn't went a lap down, he might have been there at the end. It was really bad luck.
-5 points in DraftKings.
Oof. Oof.
A lot of money for -5 points.
And with that, we'll move on to UFC. And we also might add, before we get to this, Dana White last night announced a full stadium event
at
UFC 261. Street Jesus versus Usman in a rematch. And a lot of people actually weren't thrilled with that announcement, thinking that they could have did a lot better for their first
live event.
Is it because of the Florida factor?
Oh, yeah.
He's in his hometown. They're going to get people from Miami driving up.
No, the thing is that Florida's more lax with the way the rules are for COVID.
Right.
But, I mean, if you're asking, is that why Masvidal and Usman are fighting? A little bit, because Usman said he wanted to beat Masvidal in his hometown because he was the king of Florida, is what he was saying.
Yeah, those people in Florida love Masvidal.
Usman also he called Masvidal out because everybody said the first one all he did was wrestle, and he wants to prove that he can knock Masvidal out. And that the only reason that he took it easy and did the foot stomping the first time is because he had a broken nose from training going into the fight, and he's ready to show people what he can do. If he stands with Masvidal, that could be dangerous. But if he gets hit by those straights and those jabs right down the middle, Masvidal's probably going to be in some trouble.
In your opinion, Should Masvidal have got the title shot, or was there other people there? That's what I'm saying. Was it more so a ploy just for tickets?
Well, it's definitely a money scheme, but you could have made a good case for Colby Covington getting a rematch, Masvidal getting a rematch, or I honestly like the Wonder Boy fight against Usman, Stephen Thompson, because he's the only guy in the top 5 that Usman hasn't beat. I want to see it. I want to see how it goes. Thompson's on a winning streak. His last loss was that I was there for it in Nashville, Tennessee, when he was beating the hell out of Anthony Pettis, and Anthony Pettis jumped off the cage and Superman punched him. So I would actually like to see Stephen Thompson versus Usman, because Usman thinks he's... I mean, he has been solid on the feet. I can't say much about it, but I'd like to see his version of on the feet versus Stephen Thompson, and I want to see if he could take Stephen Thompson down, because Stephen Thompson works with his brother-in-law, Chris Weidman, all the time. So you've got to assume that Stephen Thompson's got a defensive wrestling game.
So that's probably the best UFC matchup they could have made. But for pay-per-view buy rates,
yeah,
I feel the biggest...
Or Covington.
I think Covington would have been bigger than Masvidal, because you had the last fight that just blew up on social media.
I will say that Covington lost some steam with his gimmick when Trump left office. He's lost some steam with his gimmick. He still tries to play the bad boy. I really think it is a gimmick. I really don't think that's who he is as a person. But
he's a big wrestling fan, and he uses a lot of the wrestling gimmicks in his character.
Well, the reason he started doing it was because they said they were going to cut him, even though he kept winning. So when he beat, I believe it was Maia down in Brazil, he called Brazilians a bunch of dirty animals and pretty much got ran out of the country. And that's when, like, the hype picked up for him, because he became a heel and people hated him. And what do people love to watch people they love, and they love to watch people they hate, because the people they hate, they want to see them lose. The people they love, they want to see them win. Masvidal is one of the ones that people love. Covington's one of the people they hate. So, I mean, they would have sold well either way, honestly, I think. I don't think there was one that was better or worse.
That's true. You know, the biggest pay-per-view buy rates of all time in the UFC are Conor McGregor. You got Brock Lesnar. It's these characters that people love or hate. And you got Conor just about every single slot there that's the pay-per-view record. Then you got a bunch of Brocks. Then you got Anderson Silva, because a lot of people hated Anderson Silva back in the day.
Well, I will say, since Conor McGregor's come back, he's kind of used this, like, nice guy approach.
He's kind of turned face.
But it hasn't worked out for him.
No.
He hasn't done well. I mean, he knocked out Donald Cerrone, but Donald Cerrone's washed at this point. I love Donald Cerrone.
That was probably a fight that shouldn't have happened, but they did it just for an easy... Because Cerrone's a can at this point.
I guarantee you they thought that Conor McGregor was going to do the same thing to Dustin Poirier that he did the first time. And I think Dana White was thoroughly upset when Dustin Poirier ended up...
Well, Poirier's more experienced now, you know. And well, actually, he didn't fight him bad the first time.
Well, there wasn't much time to really
decide
whether he fought him bad or not. But anyway, so we had UFC Fight Night Edwards versus Muhammad, which was kind of... there was 2 disqualifications, which were actually no contests. We had Matthew Smellisberger ended up knocking out Jason Witt with the first punch in 16 seconds. Jinyu Frey ended up wrestling her way to a decision over Gloria DePaula. JJ Aldrich ended up beating Courtney Casey. That was actually a pretty good fight. It wasn't too bad. Nasrat Hos, I really don't know how to say his name, ended up beating Rafa Garcia. Rafa Garcia actually did pretty well for his first UFC fight against a very experienced guy at lightweight. Ronnie Yaya did what he was supposed to do. He won by a submission. Everybody knew he was going to do it. Then we had a featherweight contest of Marcelo Rojo and Charles Jourdain. That was actually a really entertaining fight. Jourdain ended up catching him in the last round and knocked him out. Angela Hill put on a clinic against Ashley Yoder. Wasn't very close at all. And then this is where it got a little sketchy right here. So Eric Anders was winning the fight easily. Darren Stewart could barely stand on his feet. What happened? An illegal knee. Darren Stewart was on his feet and had his hand on the ground, And Eric Anders, instead of just taking him to the ground or punching him, decided to knee him. Darren Stewart was obviously hurt before the knee, so after the knee ensued, they ended up having to call a fight because Darren Stewart couldn't walk in a straight line. So at that point, you've got to take care of the fighter, even if they want to continue to fight, which he kept saying. You've got to worry about their health, so it ended up being a no contest. I really feel like these no contests should be disqualifications, and the person that got illegally struck should probably win the fight. I think that at that level, you should know what you're doing. You should not be having these penalties that have happened this week and last week. Or not last week.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't keep up with them. And then Matheus Nicolau ended up beating Manel Kopp. That was actually a upset right there, even though I did read that a lot of people thought Nicolau would win. Davey Grant ended up getting the better of Jonathan Martinez, and Jonathan Martinez was one of the heavier favorited fighters on the card, and Davey Grant really brought it. Davey Grant, people keep your eye on him because he lives up to his nickname Dangerous. That boy goes in there and swings. He tries to wrestle. He's really entertaining. Dan Ige, Gavin Tucker wishes he could relive that fight. That fight was not long-lived. 22-second knockout by Dan Ige. Same incidents here with Misha Serkinov. Ended up just getting caught and clipped by Ryan Spann, and he lived up to his nickname, Superman. And then in the main event, we had another unfortunate accident in round one. Leon Edwards could not keep his hand closed, poked Bilal Muhammad in the eye. That one was fine. At the beginning of the second round, he jabbed him like he had a knife in his eye. Bilal Muhammad goes down screaming in pain. He was tearing up, and there was blood where he was crying. That to me should have been a victory for Bilal Muhammad, because that's insane. You get told backstage that you're supposed to keep your hand closed. You're not supposed to point your fingers. The first round you did it. He told you to keep your hands closed. And then you come out in the second round and you poke him in the eye and he's bleeding out of his eye. That's ridiculous. That should not have been a no contest. There's a rule that we all found out in the Peter Yan, or not in the Peter Yan fight, actually in the Eric Anders fight. We found out that if it doesn't go past the second round of the fight, it is a no contest. It is not a disqualification. I think they should change that rule. I think that should have been a disqualification. Leon Edwards should have lost, and Bilal Muhammad should have gotten the win.
Right. All right, so back to UFC 261 with COVID being still rampant and Florida being about the state that's open, and they're going to start doing events down there. Are we going to start seeing some big cards here? Like, are they going to throw Conor out there as quick as they can? And
Conor talked about wanting to fight in Dallas at the big stadium.
Oh, yeah, because Dallas, Texas is opening up in a month or so.
And Dana talked about trying to get UFC 260 with Ngannou and Miocic down in Texas, and that fell through. So they went to Florida. I definitely see Texas as being one come open. And, I mean, I think you might see them flop back and forth between Florida and Texas for a little while until other places come open.
Mm-hmm.
And if everything goes to hell and they got to start doing it in Vegas again, I mean, they'll just do it at the Apex with no fans. So, I mean, everybody's known Dana White's wanted to open up and get fans back in there for a long time. So this is nothing that anybody should be shocked by. It's just how Dana is. Dana wants to make as much money as he can.
Was Fight Island the most overhyped thing ever?
I thought it was an interesting idea.
It was interesting, but it wasn't like everybody thought it was going to be. They literally thought they were making their own island, and all they did was go to Abu Dhabi.
No, I envisioned that they would be fighting like on the beach or something.
I did too, and I thought they were like literally building like a whole arena.
No. Well, at first he said he wanted to rent an island and build a hotel and all this extravagant stuff.
It just wasn't reasonable because it couldn't get done in time.
They tried to do it on Indian reservations before they could do it there. They tried a lot of things. I mean, it worked out because then you could have two different venues, and it was hard to get Europeans into America at peak COVID, but it was easier to get them in at Abu Dhabi. Yeah. So that's why it made sense to have it in Abu Dhabi.
And, well, that's that. Anything else went on in the sports world this past week? It's kind of been, outside of the NCAA tournament and stuff, it's kind of been a slow part of the year.
The Hornets keep coming back.
The Hornets are on an incredible run, 4 in a row and a 5th in the East. They're a game out of home court advantage. This probably the most exciting team in the NBA, in my opinion. Biased opinion. They're exciting. I guess we'll go on to this day in sports. And today in sports history, Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, 1900, Big Ban Johnson, after presiding over a meeting of baseball owners, announced that a new American League would begin play in April with teams in Buffalo, Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit, Indianapolis, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis. And now we have the American League and the National League. In 1964, Paul Hornburg, Hornung, and Alex Karras were reinstated to the NFL after an 11-month suspension for betting on football games. In 1991, the U.S. won all 3 medals in the World Figure Skating Championship as Christy Yamaguchi won the championship, Tanya Harding finished second, and Nancy Kerrigan finished third, on her way to breaking some kneecaps in a few years. In 1996, Mike Tyson won the World Boxing Council Heavyweight Championship of the World with a technical knockout of Frank Bruno in the 3rd round. In 2000, digital broadcasts offered viewers the first opportunity to watch any one of the games played during the NCAA basketball tournament, with 4 separate channels carrying a different game. And then in 2002, Brittany Cecil was hit by a puck while watching a game between the Blue Jackets and the Flames at Nationwide Arena.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Okay. What are you looking forward to this week in sports?
The NCAA Tournament. That's our next month, is the NCAA Tournament, NBA, and just not too far off from the start of baseball. And then you got Augusta coming up with the Masters in a few weeks.
I would say I'm actually excited about this week's UFC fights because we have Derek Brunson from Wilmington, North Carolina. Hometown boy. I actually met him here in our hometown at a local fight because he had a fighter there. He's fighting Kevin Holland. I think it's going to be a tough fight for Brunson, but I'm excited to watch it.
And yeah, like I said, mine's the NCAA Tournament. Obviously, any Hornets game that comes on, I've been watching them pretty hardcore. And that's about it. I got nothing from the Red Wings. They're awful this year.
Who's your favorite player this week?
My favorite athlete?
Yeah.
I was watching WWF main event from 1990 in January or February. And they were building up to Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6. And during the show, it was before WrestleMania, they had Hulk Hogan take on the Macho Man, Randy Savage, and the special guest referee was the man that had beat Mike Tyson for the first ever time just a few weeks prior, Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas is my guy of the week because he was the one that did Mike Tyson's run and kind of slowly dropped Tyson. I mean, Tyson obviously didn't fall off right after that, but it kind of started the slow, steady decline as he went to prison shortly after. And
then lost to Lewis.
Yeah, he won a bunch, and then he lost to Evander Holyfield twice, and then it just kind of went all downhill after that. And then they forced him into a Lennox Lewis fight that was not good. But the weird thing was, I was reading this rumor that at WrestleMania 6, Vince McMahon wanted to change. Actually, it had been talked about from 1988 to 1990 about Vince McMahon and Don King working together to do a big WrestleMania match between Mike Tyson and Hulk Hogan, which was 2 of the biggest stars in the world in the 80s. And it just didn't fall through. It didn't happen. There was rumors that Vince McMahon wanted to change Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6 to Hulk Hogan versus Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson kind of just fell off the planet after losing to Buster Douglas. It was the biggest combat fighting sports upset probably of all time. The bookies didn't even have Buster Douglas on there because they didn't even know, they didn't even think he had a chance against Tyson, and he upset him. Now, granted, there was a lot of factors. If they fight that fight 100 times, Tyson probably wins 80 to 90 times, but there was all this trip lag and all this, and Tyson kind of came in over his head. Tyson really just didn't seem himself when you go back and watch that fight.
Well,
but Buster Douglas, my athlete of the week.
I'm going with Derek Brunson just because, I mean, hometown. I'm excited about seeing him this week, so he's obviously at the forefront of my mind. But on the point of like the Buster Douglas thing is that like that's the reason I love combat sports is because no matter how heavily somebody's favored or how much somebody's underdog, if you get hit one time right, it's over.
Anybody can
You look
anybody.
at Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey. That was supposed to be just a cakewalk for Rousey.
That is not true. Let me find it. There is one person that said Holly Holm could beat Ronda Rousey, and it was me a few months prior on Facebook. I said, watch out, Holm can beat Rousey. And I took that to the bank on Facebook after it happened. God, I'm going to go back in time and find this. But continue with what you were saying.
Well, I'm just saying
I'm going to take my victory walk.
I'm saying that's the beauty of combat sports, though, is that you never know what's going to happen. It's not like normal sports where there's a whole team. It's not a whole team. It's a whole team that helps a fighter, but ultimately it's that fighter. And if somebody makes one wrong move, somebody capitalizes it. Who was the out-of-shape guy that beat Anthony Joshua?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his
Mexican
name
fighter. Yeah. But yeah, he wasn't supposed to. They were just giving the title shot to somebody just so Anthony Joshua could fight, and he ended up beating Anthony Joshua. So I mean, just think of it like that. Like anything. I mean, obviously they fought again, and that whole stipulation you're talking about with Lewis.
I got too much stuff in here, but I called it
with Douglas Tyson, where 90 times out of 100, Tyson probably wins that fight. But with Anthony Joshua, it was the same thing. But I don't think Tyson ever got to rematch Douglas, did he?
No, they were supposed to, but he went to prison.
Yeah.
And by the time he came out, Douglas was washed.
So
Douglas was a one-hit wonder. He got destroyed by a lot of people after that.
But what I'm saying is that if Tyson went to prison and he would have gotten an automatic rematch,
he probably
would have won, just like Anthony Joshua did.
Yeah.
So Ruiz,
Andy
Ruiz,
he actually has lost a lot of weight. He looks pretty jacked right now.
But all right, I think that's it. I think we're good.
That's it. We will see you next week as we'll talk about what went down with the NCAA tournament. I'm sure there'll be some upsets that we didn't see coming. As next week we'll probably be reviewing App State beating Gonzaga. See you next week.